Good afternoon, everybody. Oh man, you can't listen to that, Bill. You can't turn on music like that and not turn on my country. That's where my country accent hits. So North Carolina boy pops out when I hear this kind of stuff, man. Welcome this afternoon. This afternoon's Know the Scene. Welcome everybody. Justin Dionne, your host here with another great show for you. As you can hear, we're gonna have some great picking and grinning today on the show. But before we get started, just a couple. Help get us all warmed up for today. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's staying warm. It's been a little chilly, we know, around the area. We're having our 1 week of winter in North Carolina, as is tradition. So enjoy the 1 week of winter. Now, if you are in the high country, I hear this has been a great winter so far. If you enjoy winter sports, so the skiing and snowboarding and sledding. I think I saw like this is a top 10 year so far ever for Beach Mountain, like the Beach Mountain area up there. Yeah. So yeah, go up to the high country in this little bit of January we have left to see if maybe we can eke out a couple more good snows for you. Here down in the lake area in the Piedmont of North Carolina, been nice and wet, just wet. Not snowy, but wet. But we're having a great time. Cain Center for the Arts continues to be rocking and rolling here in the Lake Norman area. We just had we've had some great shows recently as well so far this January. The Drifters came and did fantastic. The kids have done Frozen Junior. If you guys took your families out to see that was a great show by our Davidson community players up there. The kids did a great job. We've also got February coming up. As we move into February, got some great shows. You have the Chicago tribute band Chi-Town Transit Authority with February 3rd. It's February 3rd. And then we've got our guest today that we're going to speak to in just a moment. We've got Darin Brooke Aldridge coming on February the 9th. If you guys like country and bluegrass and folk and all that, you don't want to miss these North Carolina folks that are coming into play. There on February the 9th weekend. There. You can make sure to get tickets to all the shows at cainarts.org, cainarts.org, for all the shows that are coming and are happening. Also, you can make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and all that. And make sure for the show, Know the Scene, if you don't follow us on your podcast app, go to that podcast app that you use and look up WSIC Know the Scene. And you can listen to this episode after the fact, and all the episodes. You can go listen to the backlog of episodes and find out all kinds of cool stuff. You know, I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to work on a show like this and get to talk with these great, really talented folks, musicians, artists, folk that we have that are, local to the area, but also, North Carolina folks, then beyond, all kinds of people. It's great to get to chat with these folks and hear their stories, and I hope you all enjoy it as well. So today we've got with us Mr. Darin Aldridge, one half of Darin Brooke Aldridge. That's Darin, welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us today, man. Now, where are you joining us? I'm going to guess, are you in Shelby?
I'm close to Shelby. Brooke and I live in Cherryville, North Carolina.
Oh, okay. I remember you're from Cherryville.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if you're still there now.
Cleveland County, Gaston County line, pretty much.
Yes, sir. Nice.
They claim us.
That's right. I like it. See, that's one of the things I was excited about bringing you guys in this year, other than just your talent and your music, obviously, was that, you are good old North Carolina people.
Yeah, man. Cherryville just did a mural of us here about 4 or 5 months ago.
Oh, that's so, man.
That's right uptown. Our
fancy.
Friend, Scott Nurkin, done so many for the North Carolina Bluegrass and just arts and music trail. I've done so many artists throughout North Carolina. He was honored that he put us on the wall up here right on Main Street in Cherryville.
That's so cool. Not many people can say they've gotten put on a mural. How neat,
yeah,
especially in your hometown. Man.
Yeah, right downtown Cherryville. He did, Earl Scruggs and Shelby and Don Gibson and Coltrane and Randy Travis and Doc Watson and, Ronnie Millsap. He's done a ton throughout the state.
That's awesome. Well, we're excited to have you at Cain Center. To have you and Miss Brooke. Y'all have been on the we were just talking before the show started. You're just wrapping up a show in Nashville this weekend at the Opry. Y'all played a private gig?
Yeah, we did kind of a corporate gig at the Opry for Dairy Queen, which was very cool.
Nice.
And it was good to talk about all the Dairy Queens around North Carolina that we visited
In
throughout
that,
the rest of the states. But I thought that was a pretty good story we told on the stage the other night to get them laughing. You know, they had one here at Gaston College when I went to get college for a short while over here in Gastonia. And I remember the Dairy Queen just sat right on the edge of the property. So they thought that was a good thing.
was it like one of those classics?
Every now and again.
Was one of those classic Dairy Queens?
It was.
Oh man, I had one of those. I grew up in Salisbury, and we had one of those, like the classic Dairy Queens with the drive-in, and you'd park, and when I was younger, you used to park and they'd come to you, and then as I got older, they stopped that, and you'd park, but you'd walk up to the window and order, but all the kids would hang out, like,
oh yeah, man.
that's where that's where you get in trouble if you weren't careful,
Right, yeah. But it was a good time with the Opry there. We've been blessed to play there over 50 times.
Yeah.
Since we debuted in 2017, and
wow,
they've been friendly to us, and we always love it when they call and ask us to be a part of a show.
That's awesome. How neat is that? From when you were growing up in Cherryville, did you ever think you'd get to play the Opry?
I dreamed about it and thought of it all the time. I grew up in a musical family, and of course we watched Hee Haw every Saturday night. We got to see all the stars out there and people as I grew up listening to from Bluegrass. Getting to see Ricky Skaggs and Vince and Earl and so many other ones. We liked a lot of the classic country music too in my family. So when I first started learning to play and really getting into a bluegrass band and some of that when I was 15, 16 years old, that was always a dream to get to go to the Opry and play.
Yeah. When was your first time there at the Opry?
We debuted, Brooke and I, in 2017, July 4th, but we had played earlier in October in 16 with John Berry. He asked us to be a part and come sing harmony vocals, and I played mandolin with him the very first time we took the stage. And then at the Ryman that year in 2016, Vince Gill got us out to play Bluegrass Nights at the Ryman with him, and we guested on a couple songs with Vince. Wow. So that was our first time there.
So how many? So did you drive to for the show this weekend, or did you guys?
Oh yeah, we most of the time always drive to Nashville.
That's a solid haul.
Stuff. It's about 6 hours.
Yeah.
But the time you go to Charlotte and drive over there and go through the airport and be there 2 hours ahead of time, and then an hour flight. Well, that's close to 5 hours. So might as well have a car, drive over there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Totally. Well, cool. Well, this is exciting, man. I'm excited to get to chat with you today. We're getting ready to run into a break, and when we come back, everybody, we're going to continue talking with Darin. We're going to go back. I want to hear more about Darin, kind of like getting started, what it was like getting started, how you got into music, how you got into playing the instruments that you play, and stuff like that. And we'll continue on after the break with Darin Aldridge here. Coming back, Know the Scene. All right, welcome back, everybody, to this week's Know the Scene. Justin Dionne, your host here with Cain Center for the Arts. Welcome in here to our stage on February the 9th, Darin Brooke Aldridge. We have Darin here with us today. We're chatting about some things. And Darin, I wanted to see if we come into this second half, or second segment today. I'd like to kind of just take it back and to tell us about, growing up there in Cherryville, as all us North Carolinians know how to say it correctly.
That's right.
That's right, Cherryville. How, so you from a musical family? How'd you get interested in music and playing?
Yeah, it's throughout my mom's side of the family. My mom played piano and auto harp and guitar, and her brother played guitar and sang as they grew up. And my grandpa was an old time singer, bluegrass and gospel, and played guitar and a little bit of fiddle and banjo. So it's in my bloodline to play and sing. And I remember always being around music and stuff like that growing up, and they'd have the little jams at the house sometimes. And Cherville's known for a lot of musicians. Of course,
Yeah.
this whole area of North Carolina very much is, but being part of that. So when I got more of age of learning to play guitar, I'd say when I was 11, 12 years old, I wanted to sing and grew up in church as well. So we was always singing and playing in the church house too. So I got my first band probably when I was 15 years old. And so I've been going strong ever since. I was also in the high school band, junior high band. So I had a classical music type of background as well.
What'd you play?
I played saxophone.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I was in the marching band, and that was a great experience for me. So really learning theory early along in school like that was a big plus for me as I transitioned that into country bluegrass type of thing. So
Wow.
I started, playing in those bands, 15, 16-year-old, and playing fiddlers conventions and band competitions and anything that would have me. And I started playing and floating a lot at that time. And I caught on with a great band out of North Carolina, Cleveland County, called Acoustic Syndicate right after high school.
Yeah.
And I toured with those guys for about a year and a half as they was just starting out. Steve and Brian and Fitz and all the guys were just from over here in Shelby, and I saw them in a lot of jams and stuff and got to know them, and I was kind of the new little hotshot mandolin player, so they merged me into their band.
There you go.
For a couple of years, and then I got an opportunity with the Country Gentlemen in 1999, which was a legendary bluegrass band, and I toured with them until Mr. Waller passed away in late 2004.
Wow. That's I mean, what a ride.
Yeah, man.
Right? Like what a ride.
The early days of playing with the Syndicate and a lot of the early jam band scenes.
Yeah, and that's going from the Syndicate to which, I mean, Syndicate is, I wouldn't call, they're definitely not bluegrass. But they have obviously have like parts of that in them, right?
Oh, for sure.
Obviously, like they're definitely they're definitely not traditional bluegrass or traditional old time in that way, but that's one of the things I like about Acoustic Syndicate too, is like they blend the styles. It's that blend that moves in there, right? That's really neat.
Right. It surely was. And it's good to be with those guys, and then going straight to the Country Gentlemen, which was one of the legends in bluegrass music. So
absolutely. So how did you take me from your first, you said your first band when you're 15, right? Mm-hmm. How did that form? I mean, so what's cool about the story, I think, is that, you grew up and you're already surrounded by, from family, all kinds of family you basically mentioned, from your mom to your grandpa, you're growing up in church, right? Which obviously surrounded by music there. I mean, it sounds like you just were in this great situation of constant exposure to music.
I surely was. A lot of jams were happening that I was a part of, bluegrass jams. That's how I met the Syndicate boys and so many other ones.
What do you remember when that happened? Like when you met the Syndicate guys, like was there like a certain story or something when like you're at this one specific jam or something, or was it just over time?
Well, there's a bomb shelter close by here in Cherville that a lot of musicians would go and hang, and they've been doing that since the late 70s. And a lot of musicians will go over on Wednesday nights and pick, and that's how I met all those guys, was from there. And also Green Acres was going pretty strong. I don't know if you ever heard of that. It was up in Bostic, North Carolina, in Rutherford County. And they brought in so many great acts through the years for acoustic and country music. Newgrass Revival had played there, to Rodney Crowell, to whoever, and you met a lot of people there. And I was glad to be a part of that before it shut down in the early 2000s. But just again, being around it and surrounded by that was a blessing for me.
So it sounds like throughout your career so far too, like you've been very receptive to just the next, wherever things are moving.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like wherever things need to move. And
sure.
From what I'm hearing from, your band first, and then, sitting in on some jams, and hey, now we're Acoustic Syndicate, and well, now this is phased out. Now we're going to go this direction, and this thing's come up. Do you think that's a big key for like folks if they're thinking about a music career at some point? Is just be willing and open and able.
Try to keep an open mind and play with folks that you can. And when I was just learning, when I had a band here with a couple guys in town, it was more of a gospel band. I still ventured out and played with other bands because I was learning guitar and mandolin and banjo, and I'd fill in for their bands just on any instrument that I could.
Wow.
Just constantly playing and learning the parts and singing to give me a foundation for that.
So how many instruments total do you play?
I play about all the stringed instruments and piano and saxophone.
You still play sax?
Not much.
Alto or baritone or what, tenor?
Yeah, the chops up on that in the last several years. There for a while, you know, I played it some with the Syndicate boys. You know, we'd play some real jazzy stuffs, and I still done weddings and stuff like that on it, but I hadn't picked it up in quite some time.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I think that's so cool that, like, you know, that you the breadth of music that you were saying that you're playing. You know, I think that's one of the cool things about, like, the true musicians out there. You know,
it's been awesome to keep that open mind. And I've been around so many great mentor friends of mine. You know, John Jorgensen is a mention of one, and John, I don't know if you know who he is or not, but he's just an awesome musician. And, you know, he plays clarinet to Django jazz guitar to piano very well to being part of the Helicasters or Elton John's band. I mean, he's just an awesome musician, and been able to be friends with him for so long, and having other mentors like Ricky and Vince. You know, Vince being out there with the Eagles now and still playing a lot of bluegrass, both of them, and having great country careers and down to earth gospel music. I mean, it's just, those guys have been jewels for me to look up to.
Now, when you were coming up and playing in some of these bands, was there a moment where, I mean, what's it like when you have one of those moments when you meet someone, you know, like one of these fellas that becomes one of your mentors? Like, you know, when you mention someone like Vince, you know, like Vince Gill, right? I mean, that's someone that obviously you said was a mentor, but even before was a mentor, you must have looked up to him, right?
Oh,
and enjoyed his music and listened to him. So, like, what point was it when you connected with Vince? Was there, like, you had ran into him on the scene somewhere, or he showed up at a jam somewhere? What was that?
The first time I got to meet him was in actually at Charlotte Ovens Auditorium. And I went over there and got to get backstage, and Vince spent more than an hour with me.
Oh, wow.
And it's the first time he'd ever met me. He had, you know, I knew the banjo player that was playing with him at that time. Of course, that's when he'd come out with These Days, which was a 4-album set. So we did a wide variety of music the whole night. And so we had a big band, probably the biggest band he ever traveled with. But I knew him, and I knew Jeff White played guitar with him, and they kind of told him that me and Brooke, you know, were a young bluegrass act, and we might have had one album out at the time and was playing. And so he seen me, and he recognized that I had some knowledge about instruments and stuff like that. And he had one of his old mandolins there, and I've got the picture set up over in here, and he set me up on one of the cases and gave me his $200,000 mandolin. We would sit there and played and traded licks and talked, but he spent a lot of time with me that afternoon. And yeah, ever since then, we've kind of stayed in touch, and asked him to be on one of our records, you know, a couple years later, and he said yes. And, you know, he said, come on over the house and we'll sing and do it. And ever since then, we've stayed pretty in touch and been pals and all that. And it's just goes to show you that what a great person he is, entertainer and friend and a mentor to us. And a lot of them are like that, you know, but there's a lot of them that are not.
Yeah. Tell me, I'd like to talk a minute about kind of what you just said, as well as a word you said before, which is mentorship, right? And I know that you've been awarded a mentorship award from IBMA for you doing some mentoring as well. Like, and we got about a minute and a half before the next break, but tell me a little bit about mentorship, and we can talk about this after the break too if you want. But like the role of that.
Before, man, I've been so blessed being around so many great people, and I mentioned that early on, being a part of so many bands when I was young, 15, 16, 17 years old. I had a lot of great guys in the area that took me under their wing and seen I had potential, and seen I had the drive and the passion to do more than most of the people wanted to put in. So they took the extra mile for me to take me to Nashville for the first time, to introduce me to other folks. And, you know, as I got more established and we started making more music and records and stuff like that, we I quickly wanted to give back to other ones, and I started teaching and was part of the School of the Arts, part of the Earl Scruggs Center when it developed, and taught over there, and just been glad to give back what I could through teaching and part of the arts.
I love that. I love that. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk some more with Mr. Darin Aldridge after the break. Know the Scene, coming right back. All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. Know the Scene. Man, I tell you what, that song is, it reminds me a little bit of like Statler Brothers. Like I know it's, I mean, you know what I mean? Like I know it's obviously it's not all men singing that song, but my grandpa raised me up listening to Statler Brothers. We used to watch their show.
Oh yeah,
they used to have
Statler Brothers were great. They had that show too on TV, man. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And in thinking of that, as you mentioned earlier in the call, you know, getting to watch that, and then Jimmy Fortune's been one of our biggest, you know, supporters and fans and friends, mentors too. We traveled with Jimmy since probably 2017.
Wow.
He was, you know, been on our records. We've been on his and been part of his band some. And just remember watching him as a kid on there, listening to him sing all that stuff on that TV show, gathered around the piano going, golly, that dude can sing. You know?
Yeah. You know, that's something that I think I pick up with, and I'm not saying all music doesn't have a part of this. I think it does, but especially I feel like in country, folk country, bluegrass country, that vibe of country, I feel like that sense of, like we were talking about earlier, what you were saying of like mentorship and of playing on each other's records and of community maybe.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's
family for sure.
Yeah, there's such an underlying theme of that within. Why do you think that is?
I think it just the early foundation of the music, and in it being, you know, coming out of the Appalachian region and the churches, and you know, like the early Opry was always like that. You always had a big part of family and friends that were there, and backstage was as much of a show as it was on stage, and they were rooting for each other. Very big, you know, and Vince told us that early on, you know, when you approached him at the Opry or in there, that the Roy Acuff told him the door's never shut to your dressing room at the Opry. It's always open, you know, and there's different rooms back there that each artist is in, and it's always going around shaking and howdying with each other and visiting and doing. Very seldom that you see a few doors that are shut when you're backstage.
Yeah. What is that?
And it's carried on, you know.
So talking about the Opry, before we got started, I was trying to ask you. So as I mentioned, I enjoy country and stuff, but I wouldn't say I'm deep into all the, you know, understanding every part of it. And I asked you earlier, so explain to me Opry membership.
Man, there, I forget how many Opry members there are, but you know, they don't ask, but about anywhere from 3 to 6 members, you know, per year.
Wow.
And you'd think a lot of folks that are already members that aren't, but it's just a certain, you know, I don't think it's a committee or anything, but it's just folks that are, you know, the president of the Opry and who books the Opry. And I'm sure there's a lot of older members there that might have a say, but just one of the biggest honors in music history to be a part of it and be an Opry member. Is
there something that comes like, as far as like, I mean, is it now that you're an Opry member, is it more like, hey, you're listed as an Opry member, or is there not an expectation of now you play X amount of shows a year at the Opry or things like that? And like,
I would say, and I don't know any of this is set in stone, but I would say as an Opry member, you can play more times if you put in, you know, you're looked at that than as a guest, you know. But me and Brooks played over 50 times.
Yeah,
we've probably played the Opry more than some of the members that have been there.
Yeah,
you know, like our friend from North Carolina as well, Jimmy Wayne played over 200 and some times.
Wow.
At the Opry. Mandy Barnett played over 400 times before she was asked to be an
400 times. Wow.
I think that was right when she got when she got to be included as an Opry member, that's what they announced, how many times that she had played.
Wow.
And she was great, and she's everything that the Opry is. She's very good traditional singer and plays, and with the band there, and what it comes out, what it means. And a lot of the newer folks that are there, like Carly Pierce got to be an Opry member a couple of years ago, and she's right out in front winning a lot of the major awards for country music, and she still holds the tradition of the Opry very well too. I think she'd played close to 100 times.
So when you say the tradition of the Opry, what do you mean by that?
Well, the roots and the foundation of the Opry, I think, is very good for us that do get to play it and love that traditional side of it. And you have the respect for it, when Eddie Stubbs was the announcer for WSM and was there for many years and a great historian. He grabbed me and Brooke to the side before we went on our first time, and he had saw us be backstage and be a part of the backstage area and guest and watch the show long before we got to play. And he grabbed us both and he said, "Are you nervous to play tonight?" And of course we said, "Yes, everybody's nervous to play." He said, "Well, if you're not nervous, you don't belong out there on that stage." It's got to be that important to you.
Yeah, I can see that.
So that's wise words, to remember. And, you just love everything about it. It's just not another stage for sure.
Right.
It's a feeling, and know so many that you're representing when you go out there across the airwaves and stand on that stage. It's important to the crowd that they receive that feeling too.
Would you say, and no disrespect meant to him with this question, but would you say that as a performer and as long as you've been a performer and as many, shows as you played, would you say that kind of that sense of almost every time you get ready to walk out on a stage, there's still a little bit of you that's got that little bit of nervousness?
Oh yeah, you want to do the best that you can and get across to the audience as an artist, what you feel and what you sing about, and you want to do good every time. You want to have just enough confidence and arrogance that you are going to deliver those well, but not too much where you're not nervous each time.
Right. That's what I used to. I in a former life I used to perform a little bit and like as an actor and a little bit of a musician here and there. But like I remember someone asked me like do you ever get nervous when I was like, every time. I was like, yeah. I feel like if I'm not, I should quit.
Right.
Because exactly. And part of me thinks as performers too, there's a little bit of that performer's high that we say, of know what I mean, that like that little bit of that anxiety, and then jumping in, that adrenaline kicks in. You're like, all right, let's go, kind of thing before every show.
Right.
That's awesome. Well, awesome. So let me ask you something I was wondering. So you guys are, you're playing so much, and I know, you guys are touring around everywhere too. So how many shows you guys played last year in 23? Do you know?
We probably played over 100 shows, including Opry dates that we did.
Yeah, that's what. And so you guys are playing a lot around, and as much as you're playing out at the Opry and stuff, why are you staying in North Carolina? Why don't move to Nashville?
We've been asked that our whole career.
I'm not unique. Damn it.
We've got a lot of roots here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
We love to call home, and a lot of family and friends. And Nashville is a second home to us. We got as many folks over there that we enjoy being around, and it's a lot of business there too. But there's still friends and family over there, and we've just stayed around North Carolina for the support, the love for the state and our home.
Yeah. What's your favorite part of North Carolina?
Oh man, tough, but we love the mountains. Brooke definitely is from Avery County, and my mom and dad were raised up there, and just the whole region up there. We really.
You got a favorite North Carolina mountain town?
Mountain town? Oh man, I like Blowing Rock a lot.
Yeah, BR is good. BR is good. I've really gotten into Black Mountain lately too.
Yeah, good place, fresh over there in Black Mountain. I love to eat there, man.
Yeah, and West Jeff. West Jeff's a fun mountain town too.
Yeah, it is.
All right, we're going to take another break, and then we're going to come back with Darin Aldridge, talk some more North Carolina stuff, and come on back after Know the Scenes break. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to this week's Know the Scene with WSIC. Justin Dionne, your host here. Again, you're listening to your weekly dose of the cultural and otherwise scene here in the Lake Norman region. So what's making up the scene when you say, man, that place got a cool scene? That's what we're trying to figure out around here. Make sure we talk about it so you guys know about it. Those lovely angelic vocals you just heard was a combination of Brooke and Darin Aldridge. Today, we don't have the chance to talk to Brooke, but we've got Mr. Darin here. He's been great to chat with all day here in our time we've had together. We're going to keep talking with him. Darin, one of the questions I had, I wanted to ask you was, we talked earlier, you talked a couple times about mentoring, and you yourself, as I mentioned, won an award with IBMA for mentoring. So, who are you mentoring? Who should we be listening out for other than you?
Do what now?
Who should we be listening out for other than you right now?
Well, I've produced a lot of folks over the last several years in the studio, and of course, been a teacher now for over 20 some years. I taught with the Gaston School of the Arts for over a decade, and I've taught private lessons to folks ever since probably 1996.
Yeah.
So when the Earl Scruggs Center got up and running, I've done a big part to be on staff and be there with those guys as well. And they have a lot of classes come in, and I love doing that and doing a presentation for all the kids and the school groups that are involved that come over there throughout the year, and teaching them about Earl and about roots music and bluegrass. And I just enjoy that part of it a lot. So
that's great.
That's all part of mentoring
yes,
others. But, bands that have come along that I've helped, it's some of the guys I think live kind of close. One of them does to you over there. It's a new band called Unspoken Tradition. And both of those guys in the band, Audie and Zane, grew up right here in Cherryville, and I taught them as they were young, 12, 13, 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
And they've developed into a great band and recorded for Mountain Home and touring the country as well. It's been great to watch them grow in their music career, that I had a small part in that. And so many other students through the years went to East Tennessee State University and became a part of the Bluegrass program and the country program over there. And man, it's been super cool. I've been producing a girl named Caroline Owens here lately, and she's from Denton, North Carolina.
Oh, cool.
Her music's being played very well on XM radio these days, and getting to be a small part of that. I love the producing side and just giving some of the advice that was given to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that, like you said, it's a big piece of passing on that tradition kind of the mentorship as well.
I didn't have too many doors closed on me when I asked for things, so I'm not going to shut them on folks that ask me.
That's great. That's the way it should be. That's what it should, like you said, keeps that tradition and kind of the family, the community vibe too, that we were saying kind of permeates throughout country music and folk and bluegrass too. Yeah. In that way, circling around. So I mentioned earlier the IBMA. So I wanted to ask you, because I'm sure you've been very involved. I mean, you've been involved in the IBMA for a long time now, right?
Yeah. I played the very first IBMA, or not the first one, but my first one was probably in 1999.
Yeah. So what do you think about that switch?
Louisville, Kentucky, and the world of bluegrass came to Nashville for several years, and then it's been in Raleigh for the last 8 or maybe 10 years.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, it's got one more year in Raleigh, and then moving elsewhere, out of the state. So folks, if y'all love bluegrass and want to be a part of that, and the International Bluegrass Music Association will be in Raleigh one more year. Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. I was gonna say, man, this is the last year in North Carolina, and it's been here a long time. Yeah, man. It has.
How special has that been? So if folks here, yeah, just like you said, if folks like Bluegrass get to Raleigh this year for the last year, at least for now, maybe it'll come back another day, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah, I think it'll come back around. It's a great city and town, and it's been good there.
Yeah. Did any word on where they're going yet?
No, not yet. But it's good, to expand, the different towns. That's part of the growth of it. I think we've established a great thing and a home here in North Carolina, and of course Owensboro is where it started, and it's got the the museum for Bluegrass up there, and then it was a great time in Louisville. We set down roots there in different places and just continue to grow and expand the crowd for Bluegrass. So that's what we're expecting to do this next move.
Yeah. I love that, man. So talk to me about you and Brooke's show coming up, and you and Brooke. Gosh, man, we've been talking about everything else. Hadn't even gotten to you and Brooke yet. We're talking about that's why we needed Brooke here to keep us on task.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Brooke's a phenomenal singer. She's been 4-time IBMA Female Vocalist of the Year. She's wonderful, and been playing a lot of the records there during the commercial breaks and stuff. He's Getting Me Ready was a #1 for us for 5 months this past year.
Yeah.
And then of course you played the one that you said you like to sing bass on with Ricky Skaggs
Yes.
and Pitney and Maine, man. That one come out in April of last year. So it's coming up on a year, and I know just a few months ago they give us kind of an award for it being streamed over 1 million times.
Wow.
During that time. It's going to be on our up and coming record. It's going to come out in April, but that's just streaming platforms have done that. So it's been very well received. It was nominated for a Dove Award this year and an IBMA Award for Gospel Recorded Event of the Year.
That's it. So what else? So other than the new record coming out in April, what else is on the 2024 plans for Darin and Brooke?
Yeah, we're right in the thick of that, finishing up record now. We recorded over the weekend, and we've got a couple vocal sessions to go this week, and then we're back out touring, this coming weekend. But man, we've got a lot of stuff lined up. Of course, you mentioned you're coming up to Merle Fest at the end of April.
Come up to Merle Fest, everybody.
Part of. We're going to be up in Canada, out on the West Coast.
Oh wow!
Up in New England, so it's going to be a good year.
Yeah, it's busy. Got a lot more shows in the docket, huh?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, with the new record coming out, are you guys gonna do the thing where you release a song kind of at a time leading up to it, or are you just gonna drop it all at once?
We have been doing that. Actually, that one, Jordan, that you was playing, we released last year. We released 2 singles from it this past year. So as the music business and everything has changed, that's kind of the way you kind of drop a new record, release 2 or 3 singles before the whole album comes out. So.
Yeah, that seems to be the way that it goes around nowadays.
Yeah, correct.
That's awesome. So and you're touring with the full band with you.
Uh-huh.
Now tell everybody what's the full band consist of?
All right, we've got of course the fiddle player, young Samantha Snyder from Lexington, North Carolina.
All right, Lexington, let's go. My wife's from Lexington. That's
pretty close by. And a longtime bass player, Billy G, will be with us as well. He's been part of the group for close to 8 years now.
Wow.
And then we'll have some special guests, and of course, joining us as well. We'll have a pretty good band lined up for you for the Cain Center.
We're excited, and we got us. And you're bringing an opening act.
Yeah. Some longtime friends of mine, David Woody and his pals and new band, wanted to join us that night if they could, and of course that was a good thing to add on. Love to hear them guys and give them a chance to showcase the band. He said.
There you go. Yeah. I think that'll be real fun. What's one of your favorite parts of that you I mean with gosh, and you've been doing it so long, with all the different bands and groups you've been working with. What's one of your favorite parts of touring?
Of touring, man, I don't know. That one's a hard question. We never get paid for playing. That's always the free part. So that's the part you enjoy the most on stage. The travel and the load in and the preparation and pulling all the strings to get everybody together. That's the whole work leading up to the gig.
Are you guys kind of self-managed in that way?
Free.
Are you guys kind of self-managed in that way? Like when you know what I mean, when you're getting ready to put a route and everything together, do you guys, I mean, I know you've got a booking agent, but do you have a manager that helps organize all that, or are
Yeah,
you
we
guys
do.
running that?
We do. We're booked through New Frontier there in Nashville, and then Brian Smith with Leadership Artists is also a manager that helps
Oh,
me with that.
great. Helps cover
Yeah.
all that to help out a little bit at least.
Yeah, sure does.
That's great. That's great. When you guys, do you have a preference on, I guess right now, since you're recording, you've been doing more kind of runouts on the weekends, question
Yes.
mark?
Yes.
But once you get done, is there a point where do you ever set limits on yourself with your booking agent on like, hey, look, we only want to be out on X amount of weeks or X amount of dates or things like that?
Sometimes we do, yeah, but majority of shows are Thursday through Sunday. You know, we've got a few Monday or Tuesdays that we'll add in there here and there, but not too often. So you're back home and, you know, get to kind of live life a little bit and set up the next couple weeks and, you know, regroup the first part of the weeks. That's usually when I teach is on Wednesdays most of the time. So
Got to
yeah.
hold that teaching schedule now.
Yeah, I always enjoy that.
That's great. That's great. Well, listen, Darin, thank you so much for chatting with us today, man. We're really looking forward to having you here in Lake Norman. Glad to have you coming up and play for us, you and Miss Brooke. We're looking forward to meet you in person here in a few weeks, and best of luck on everything up until then. And
all righty, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. We'll welcome you guys February 9th again. Darin and Brooke Aldridge, cainarts.org to get those tickets today. Make sure you get them and come enjoy a great evening of bluegrass, country music, picking and grinning.
That's right.
Thanks again, everybody. Know the scene. See you next week.